The doublethink of the fully committed Brexiter. My name is Mike Cashman. If you find what I'm saying is interesting or useful, please subscribe to the channel, Britannia Waves the Rules, buy the satirical books and music. And if you buy both of our CDs, Brexit Musical Trick and I Don't Beg Pardon, I'm Talking Bollocks from the Rose Garden, before December the 12th, 2021, I will throw in a free paperback with all the lyrics of the full Les Miserables based Brexit musical trick. So if you buy two CDs, I'll provide a few more details of that at the end. But on with the show, Brexiter doublethink. Now, for any particular Brexiter, this does not necessarily apply. They may not necessarily believe two contradictory propositions. But to be fully committed to the full Brexit ideology, then doublethink is necessary. Now, it's worth taking account of what George Orwell wrote about doublethink. So he wrote this in the novel 1984. I read it before 1984. I didn't believe it was possible, but now it has come about. Here's Orwell's what Orwell wrote about doublethink. To know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which cancelled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, and then to draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed, then promptly to forget it again, and above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. That was the ultimate subtlety. Consciously to introduce unconsciousness, and then, once again, to become unconscious of the act of hypnosis you had just performed. Even to understand the word, doublethink, involved the use of doublethink. So I'm going to illustrate this with some Brexiter doublethink propositions. As I say, not everybody necessarily believes in all of them, though to be a full Brexiter believer, the full Brexit ideology, you need to believe in all. I've got 9 contradictory propositions. I will pay tribute to Chris Gray, his blog Brexit and Beyond, and he's written Brexit Unfolded, how no one got what they wanted and how they were never going to. And Chris Gray in his blog in October highlighted this Brexit doublethink. I'm going to use examples that have come up from my interactions with people, but it is the same principle. So credit, as I say, to Chris Gray. Let's take these propositions. Number 1, you have to believe that Brexit was economically beneficial, as it was touted to be, but also that it's worth any cost to endure. You have to believe, if you're fully believing in the full Brexit ideology, then you believe that we hold all the cards, or we held all the cards in the negotiations, but also that when it came to it, the EU was bullying us. So maybe they actually held the cards. You had to believe that we had the advantage because we buy more goods from the EU than the EU buys from us, but that in undertaking Brexit, we would allow those goods from the EU to flow freely into the UK, but only see tariffs and customs applied to the UK goods going out to the EU. Now, this is supposed to be for a temporary period, but, you know, if we weren't ready, we weren't ready. Tory government said that they would be ready. Number 4, you have to believe and recognise that we sell more services to the EU than we buy from them, but that it didn't matter about including services in a trade and cooperation agreement. You had to believe that we could be just as well off outside the EU as a third country. We didn't need the what membership provided for us at all, but also that the EU was punishing us by treating us as a third country outside the EU, applying to us the rules that in many cases we helped to devise for the single market, for example. You have to believe that the shortage of lorry drivers is nothing to do with Brexit, because the government told us that, but also that the measures that were introduced, probably inadequately, but that the measures that were introduced to mitigate the problem, to relax some of the immigration rules concerning lorry drivers into the UK were, how can you consider that relaxing the Brexit rules would potentially solve the problem, but the problem was nothing to do with Brexit? You had to believe that settled status was going to be available to everybody who was already legally in the country, and there would be no change to their status, but also that they would have to go through an arduous process with a massive length of application form and all sorts of evidence required, which immediately means that they're not being treated the same way as they were before. And if there is an arduous process, a number of people are going to fail. Furthermore to that one, you also have to believe that for settled status, no proof of settled status, no card, no token or whatever is required. That'll be fine. People will still be able to get jobs and rent houses and so on without having that token, that indication. But this is if you're a Tory Brexiter, that such a token is needed to provide proof of entitlement to vote in general elections to solve what most of the experts say is a non-existent problem of voter ID fraud. And finally in this list, there are more, but this is my list, you had to believe that you didn't have sovereignty within the EU, but that you did have sufficient sovereignty to leave. So it's a little bit, people have different analogies, but it's a little bit like being a member of a gym, saying, oh, here I am in the gym, I've got to obey all these rules of the gym, which I chose to join. So I have no sovereignty here. And then you walk out of the gym, you resign your membership of the gym, and it turns out you did have the sovereignty because you could choose to leave. There was no fence, there was no, you didn't need to climb a fence, dig a tunnel or whatever. You could just leave. As somebody said, for those who pitch the EU as being some form of evil empire, it requires armed struggle to leave an empire that is occupying you, usually. To leave the EU, you send a letter. It's a little bit more involved if you want to leave the EU and retain some of the benefits of membership and have a trade and cooperation agreement. But as I say, the fundamental mechanism for leaving the EU is to send a letter. It's called Article 50. So, as I say, adding all those up together, then a fully committed Brexiter, believing the full Brexit ideology, has to practice a form of doublethink, because those contradictory positions have to be believed together simultaneously. To have a discussion with any actual Brexiter, they don't necessarily believe all those contradictory positions. I completely understand that. But in order to, if they are in favour of Brexit, then in order to have a meaningful discussion, you will have to work out, depending on what you're talking about, potentially which on each of these doublethink points, which side of the equation they believe, or whether they believe both of them. And you also need to watch out for whether they switch from one to the other during the course of your discussion. Getting people to face up to the contradictions and at least even choose one of those two positions. To choose one and reject the other is a step forward. As I say, my name's Mike Cashman. Do subscribe to the channel. Just to recap on the offer, if you buy both of the CDs, there's no coupons or anything needed, just execute the transaction, then we will put in the free book with it. Or if you want to buy one of these for yourself and one for a friend, we'll put the free book in. If you want to buy, I don't beg pardon, I'm talking Bollocks from the Rose Garden, the COVID-19 musical, then, or if you want to buy two of those, one for you and one for a friend, we'll put the book of that in with it. If you want a different free book, send me a message. But normally I'll work on the basis of what you're saying, of the music that you're purchasing, and include for free the lyrics. I'm doing this just up until 12th of December because we're trying to see which of the kind of Christmas orders for these CDs we can have happen in the first half of the month. Will help with our planning. But say, do subscribe to the channel, buy the books, buy the music, and if you want a stocking filler, I haven't got the book here, but Brexit's a trick, not a treat, which I suppose is the first contradiction. We've taken the price of that down to £5 for a Secret Santa budget. So that's until Christmas. All right. Thank you.